Welcome to the first episode of Cup of Trio podcast presented by UCF Student Support Services. I am your co-host, Desiree Mathis, a UCF alum and the current coordinator for Prime STEM, one half the Student Support Services here at UCF. And we have my co-host.
Hi, my name is Claudia. I am also a TRIO and UCF alumni. I currently work as the Office Support Assistant for TRIO Prime STEM. We are located in Howard Phillips Hall, Suite 208.
And we are coming to you live from the Hit Maker Studio in the UCF Library. And today we're going to dive into what TRIO looks like at UCF.
So, as a TRIO alumni myself, well, I should probably preface that I was a transfer student. I transferred from Broward College and Valencia. I went to both at different semesters. But when I came here to UCF as a first-generation student, I really had no idea what a university campus would really look like. Again, like being at a community college. So TRIO was something that really helped me to get a better grasp for what to expect in the years to come, specifically pertaining to undergrad.
And I myself, while I'm not a TRIO alumni, I've had the pleasure of working in two levels of TRIO here at UCF. So we have Upward Bound programs, which are catered to pre-collegiate students at surrounding high schools. And within that program, we really assist students with preparing for college, learning how to navigate financial aid, navigate life on campus, and just overall be prepared for the journey and challenges they'll face at the post-secondary level. And also, we have Student Support Services, which is a collegiate program where we work with students who are currently here on campus, providing them with the tools and skills necessary to be successful and obtain an undergraduate degree.
I guess we should probably start with why we wanted to start this podcast in the first place. Just speaking on my behalf, I felt like starting a podcast specifically for a TRIO demographic here at UCF would be a good idea just to keep students in the loop. I feel like, I'm sure we can all agree to this to some extent, but so many students have been feeling so disconnected with each other, whether it be with other students or their professors or just people that they see on campus that they want to become friends with. There's definitely that social barrier, and I feel like having a podcast like this, hopefully you can relate to not just my stories, but also Desiree's and any future guests that we have on the podcast to at least some extent and be like, hey, I have similar feelings about certain situations here on campus, and it's nice to know that other people feel the same.
I completely agree, Claudia. So those of you who aren't aware, TRIO program serves specific demographics, one of those being first-generation students. And I can attest to being a first-generation student and kind of not knowing where to find community here on campus at UCF. UCF is such a large school, one of the biggest in the nation. So sometimes it can cause imposter syndrome or just you to be in your shell when you're on campus. So we've created this podcast to hopefully provide a space for students who come from similar backgrounds or experience these things, to really just have a space to not only learn about TRIO, but learn about topics that would help them on their journey, whether that be financial literacy or how to find services on campus, how to find community, how to develop yourself professionally and just individually. So hopefully throughout the upcoming episodes, we can provide you with that space and that content.
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad that you brought up that imposter syndrome because, again, being a transfer student when I first came here, that's definitely how it felt. I feel like there's a stigma with students that transfer into four-year institutions where it's like, okay, you had it easy for the last 2 years. So these next 2 years, it's going to be super chaotic and the transfer shock, yada, yada, yada. And then being a first-generation student, like you really come into this blind and you don't really know what to expect. It wasn't until like my first semester, like 2 weeks in, I got an email from some lady named Amanda, and she was like, hey, I think you'd be a great fit for this program called Project Best. It's for first-generation students. And I was like, what the heck is a first-generation student? And then I look it up, and it's like, oh, the first in your family to receive a bachelor's degree. And I was like, oh, well, that's me. I didn't know that there is an entire community dedicated to people in the same situation. So I'm so glad that I actually took the time to read that email and apply to the program, because needless to say, I would not be here today in this seat had it not been for that email. So,
And see, Claudia, you should count yourself lucky because I did not receive that email when I was a student here at UCF. And after learning about these programs, after graduating, and I just see like, wow, this would have been a great community for me here as a student. So I really just hope to, through this podcast, get the word out so that other students don't miss out on the opportunity to take advantage of these programs.
absolutely.
So, Claudia, you've already mentioned that you were a TRIO alumni being in Project Best during your time here in undergrad. What the listeners don't know is that you are actually a office support assistant here in our office and was previously an academic coach. So could you talk a little bit about your journey transferring from being a student in TRIO to an employee in TRIO?
Yeah, for sure. So, first, I started off being in the little TRIO group chat that we had on WhatsApp. And during that time, I mentioned earlier that I got an email from someone named Amanda. But this email was from someone named Jimmy. And I was very confused. I was like, well, okay, who is this? And why does it say Project Best? But needless to say, he was looking for ambassadors. And in the group chat, there was a text that said, oh, we're having a brunch outside in front of the building. Come check us out. And I finished class early that day. So I was just walking around campus, just to get familiar. And then I saw the table. And I was like, well, I have no experience in leadership, and I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I'm just going to volunteer to be an ambassador because I'm finally here at UCF. I'm a transfer student. I got nothing to lose, and like, why not? It's a new experience. And I guess just going out on a whim and taking that opportunity, I'm very glad that I did, because that led to me becoming not just an ambassador, but eventually to me becoming an academic coach. And during my undergraduate career, I was studying psychology. I was doing the clinical track. I didn't quite really know what I wanted to do, but being an academic coach and being able to work one-on-one with students, it really helped me to realize, I really enjoy working with students, and I enjoy getting to know them, personally, and just supporting them in any way that I can. And that led me to wanting to go to graduate school for clinical mental health counseling. And I feel like I wouldn't have been able to connect those dots if it wasn't for that opportunity. So very grateful for that. So being an academic coach, I did that for about a year or so. And then I graduated, and now I work full-time with TRIO here at UCF with Prime STEM as an office support assistant. So it's really cool seeing all aspects of the program. So from being a student in the program to being an academic coach and helping others in the program to working behind the scenes and putting events together and seeing what it takes to come up with a budget and things like that, all the behind the scenes goodies. It really allows me to appreciate what TRIO is as a whole, and to really want to advocate for students to become, involved in these programs, because they really are life-changing.
I think it's cool that you mentioned how being an academic coach kind of changed your trajectory for what you wanted to do for graduate school. And I've noticed that students that are in psychology programs or teaching programs, they typically excel in those roles of being an academic coach with TRIO programs, because they have the empathy and kind of the skills it takes to prepare those students. So with you going into your master's program, how do you feel like being an academic coach, what skills do you feel like you've taken from that will help you throughout your program?
Oh, that's a really good question. And that was actually a question that was at the grad interview, which I think is really funny. And my answer remains the same, where it's like I'm familiar with other resources that are available to us. So those are resources that I can share not just with people in my cohort, but people that are in the program. So when I was an academic coach, I had a lot of, I guess some people might say like unsettling conversations or like uncomfortable situations where a student confides in you and they trust in you and they vent to you everything. And so you're really vulnerable in those situations. but that just brings the beauty to it all, where it's like the student finds comfort in this program and they find support in this program. And I feel like that's something that a lot of students may lack, especially if they don't come from like traditional households where it's like mom and dad are always there. You know what I mean? Like when you're a first-gen student, in most cases, that's not what home is like. So to come here and find like a trio family, that's amazing. Yeah, just having that support system here, and knowing that students have a place to come to when they feel like no one else is there to listen. Mm-hmm.
Very well said. And that concludes today's episode. If you like these raw conversations, be sure to tune in to Cup of Trio. We'll be releasing an episode every first Tuesday of every month. So we look forward to you listening.
If you're listening to this on the day before September 4th, you're in luck because tomorrow we have orientation at the Teaching Academy in room 130 from 4 to 6.
And also, if you're not a current Prime STEM scholar, we encourage you to come out. We will also be hosting an interest meeting where you can learn more about our program and services. And also, if you're not able to make it, feel free to visit us on campus in Howard Phillips Hall, room 208. We'd love to chop it up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do decide to come visit us in our office in Howard Phillips Hall, Suite 208, we do have a free coffee bar where you can come get some coffee, maybe some snacks, and you can also print for free, which is great because no one wants to pay to print.
Signing off, this is Desiree.
And this is Claudia.
And that's the T.
That is the T. Thank you for listening.
Now you do the claps. This was fun.
Yeah, it's definitely trial and error.
Yeah. But I think we got it.